What's up, y'all? Today we're going to do a quick video, talk about this car and why I plan to never sell it. So thank you all for tuning in. This is a new video. This is going to be a quick one today. Just touching base on kind of what the experience has been like with this car, which has been fantastic. I've had it for about 3 months now, and have driven it quite a bit. I put like 1,500 miles on it. I took it to the track. I made a video about that, which I'll drop here. I did a delivery video of this car, kind of my 1 month review and take on it after owning it for about a month. So this will be the third video in kind of a series that I'll keep making content about this car. But this video is kind of a drive and talk, right? I wanted to talk about what's going on in the regulation space, you know, and I know enough to be dangerous about what's going on, but I know that Euro 7, the European regulations that Porsche and the Volkswagen Group have to abide by, and then a lot of what's going on here in the United States with kind of the overall push towards electrification. It's kind of sad to see what some of the signs are pointing to in terms of driving these types of cars out. You know, so I will keep this car for a long time, if not keep it for life. You know, getting into this car was a big goal of mine and a long-term thing that I really strove towards. So to me, I don't think I'm ever going to sell this car, regardless of what happens with the regulations and kind of what comes down the pipe. But I will say that there's some signs out there that indicate that this motor, the 4-liter flat 6 motor that's been around for, gosh, I think since the 991.2 or maybe the 911R, it's been in its kind of in varying forms. Essentially, the 4-liter Porsche motor is not going to be able to be in existence in its current form, with the regulations incoming. So, you know, Porsche has to abide by those, given that they're part of the Volkswagen Group and they're one of the largest manufacturers. So I think that manufacturers that produce less units, like say a Pagani or a Koenigsegg or things like that, you know, those hypercar brands that are more boutique and don't produce as many cars, aren't subject to some of these regulations that this car is going to be subject to very soon. And so that sparked a lot of conversation online, and different threads will pop up here and there as far as like what the future of these GT cars looks like. And the head of the Porsche GT division actually came out and said that the 4-liter flat 6 motor that's currently in this car, which is an absolute blast to drive, it sounds so good. Essentially, this car's motor is not going to be able to continue in the current form. It's either going to have to go hybrid, being electrically assisted in some form or fashion, or it's going to have to go turbo, which if it goes turbo, in my mind, that kind of, you know, that erases the DNA, or a huge component of the DNA that the Porsche GT3 has always been, and the GT3 RSs. You know, to me, that's always been, you know, a huge reason why I love these cars, is that high revving, naturally aspirated, all motor car. You know, not a ton of power, but absolutely plenty of power. It's a momentum car. It's so easy to keep its speed fast, and it's kind of difficult to drive on roads and stay at the speed limit, which we're doing today. Obviously, we're just going on a casual back road drive. But yeah, it's a fantastic motor, and to hear that, you know, it's basically not going to be able to exist in the future is pretty sad. So what does that mean for the future of these cars, right? I mean, I think they're still going to be around. You know, the GT3 RS is apparently incoming, but I've also heard some rumors that has been scrubbed because the motor that they were testing isn't actually going to meet regulations or pass regulations. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm sure that they're going to make one, and that's going to come out as the 992, probably .2 body style GT3 RS. So it's currently December of 2024, so that car will probably come out in the next 2 years or so. But depending on kind of when this car has to meet like the regulations that are incoming, I'm not sure if they'll even do a .2 GT3 RS, or if they do, it'll probably follow a lot of the pattern that the 992.2 GT3 came out with, which is essentially the same car in a lot of ways. You got new seats, which look absolutely awesome, and one thing that kind of a lot of people aren't talking about is that car has 15 pounds less torque than its predecessor, being the 992.1 GT3, which to my knowledge would be the first time that a .2 version of the GT3 has come out, going back all the way to the 996 generation, where the engine was a little less spicy than the .1. And so I think that's a sign of what kind of pressure, you know, Porsche is under in terms of, you know, meeting these regulations while still developing these, you know, purist focused driver cars. And so I'm sure a lot of the engineers and the motorsport people within Porsche are not happy about what they're having to do and the compromises that they're having to make. But one thing I did notice on the .2 GT3 release that came out a couple months ago now is that I think the 0 to 60 times are the same. They had to add a catalytic converter and a particulate filter into the exhaust system to kind of meet regulations again. But they shortened the gear ratios, I think, to compensate for some of those changes, right? So it's probably going to feel about as fast as the .1 GT2, or yeah, the .1 GT3. But you know, with shorter gear ratios, it'll get up and go, you know, get to 60 miles an hour probably as fast as the .1. So if that pattern continues into the .2 GT3 RS, if and when they release one of those, I hate to say it, you know, I'm biased, right? I have one of these cars. I didn't get into this wanting an investment. You know, I know that I'm going to lose money on this car. I'm going to drive it. A best case scenario for me is I could drive it for free, you know, or for little cost, you know, free miles or low cost mileage. You know, I know the Porsche GT cars have held their value pretty well over the long term. But if you're looking at the .2s, the .2 GT3 RSs, if and when they come out, and it's similar to what the .2 GT3 release was, maybe new seats, slightly different body changes here and there, maybe some different fenders, and then a motor with less torque. You know, I think the .1 for the first time is going to be the more desirable one to have. I know that that's subjective, but it seems like they're making mechanical improvements and making the cars more powerful each time they release a .2. And this is really the first time that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, there's a lot of really cool things about the .2 GT3 that I absolutely love, especially with the touring. I would love to add a .2 touring GT3 car that has the back seats. I have young kids. I think it would be so much fun to cruise around. Let's see if I can get around this guy here. I think it would be so fun to put the kids in the back in a .2 touring and let them listen to that incredible sounding motor, which still is going to sound awesome, right? So there's not going to be a ton of change as far as the .1 to the .2 as far as sound. It'll probably be a little bit more muffled, but this has an aftermarket exhaust, and I would encourage anybody with a GT3 to do at least a catback system. Keep your warranty in place. It's how God intended this car to sound. It's probably how the manufacturer intended it to sound if it weren't for the regulations that they have to keep up with. So yes, there's a lot of incredible things about the .2 GT3 that I'm sure are going to transfer over to the .2 GT3 RS, again, if and when they release one. But again, this car, I think, is going to be, in this generation in general, the 992 GT3s might be, and I have a big asterisk there, might. I don't have a crystal ball, right? And again, I didn't buy these to make an investment or anything like that, but this might be the end of an incredible run, right? The 4-liter, even the 3.8-liter, naturally aspirated, all motor cars, you know, ramming to 8,000, 9,000 RPM, manual and PDK. This transmission is fantastic with the PDK. You know, there's just a lot to love about these cars, and if Porsche isn't able to continue making them with the regulations that are imminent, then that's a really sad thing, and it makes me sad. But, you know, I've highlighted a lot of reasons why I will never sell this car. Most of them don't have anything to do with, you know, what's coming next, right? Because again, this is my car. I love this car. I thought a lot about this for years going into it, and I have no buyer's remorse. I have the opposite of that. I'm tremendously happy with this car, and I think it's absolutely incredible. But if they go the electrification route, if they go the turbo route with the GT3, honestly, I think they should change the name of the GT3. Maybe they call it the GTD or something to fit the new racing series. But, you know, I think the GT3 will probably change in a big way if they do that, at least how it feels. Maybe they won't. You know, Porsche's pulled a rabbit out of their hat multiple times before, and I love the brand. I love this car. Yeah, and I'm sure I'll be interested in one if they come out, you know. But I think I will lean more towards the all-motor cars, this type of setup where it's a 4-liter flat 6, you know, 9,000 RPM red line, where it's just an absolute blast to drive. So yeah, that's it, folks. I just wanted to highlight that here. I know there's been a lot of rumors, and again, I have no insider information. I'm just kind of reading what I'm gathering on the Rentless forums here and there, and online on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. So I have no idea what's coming, but you know, regardless, these are incredible cars. I'm sure they'll continue to be incredible cars. They just might change, right? With what they have to deal with regulations, it could be a different car in the future, and that's okay, right? But it's kind of sad. So yeah, that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. I've got a video coming out of the modifications I've done to this car that I'm going to do next. I'm actually about to film that right now. I've done about 7 or 8 mods to this car that I think really help, you know, kind of bring it to life. So that video will be coming after this one, and then after that I'm going to do a tour of my sim racing room, and I'm really into that. So if you're into sim racing or into GT3 RSs or Porsches in general, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.